All right. Good morning, everybody. Today we're going to be talking about, this is our third community meeting regarding the school board member redistricting. And we're going to have a presentation here to discuss what the options are and what some of the requirements are today. We will be having an additional meeting again later today over the same topic. Maps for each of the option can be found on the district website, as well as a copy of this PowerPoint presentation that I am going to start now. Okay, give me just 1 second here. And so we'll go ahead and get started. Again, we are going to be reviewing the redistricting for the voting areas for the school board members for that. And so what does redistricting mean? It means modifications to the school board member representation districts due to population changes. The number of school board members within Los Lunas Public Schools is not going to change, but some of the areas within the district where those members are voted from could potentially change some. How often does this occur? It happens every 10 years based upon population changes once the census is taken. It typically happens within about 1.5 to 2 years right after that, once all the numbers are taken and the census releases all of that information. So what are some of the requirements? The New Mexico Secretary of State has some very defined requirements. They must be completed again in the calendar year following the results of the federal census. So that was last year in 21. So they do have to be completed by the end of this year. So that means the board needs to have their approved option by the end of November so that we can submit to the Secretary of State by December 31st. All school board member districts should have equally balanced populations, plus or minus 5% of the mean. And we must be able to comply with the Federal Voting Rights Act. They must be comprised of contiguous areas and must be reasonably compact and not split into 2 or more areas. The boundaries of each of the districts should follow natural or official boundaries, such as rivers or townships or county borders wherever applicable. And we also don't take into consideration any of the voting districts of candidates or incumbents except to avoid pairing existing incumbents as part of the process. So in conjunction with the Secretary of State's requirements, we also take into consideration the requirements for compliance with the Federal Voting Rights Act of 1965, and where that applies and concerning minority groups, and making sure that we don't designately or operate to minimize or cancel out the voting strength of minority groups within the Los Lunas area. It also prohibits redistricting plans that dilute the voting strength of minorities or crack down or fragment the minority voting groups in any of the district areas. We also want to make sure that we provide opportunities for minority voters to elect their preferred representatives wherever possible. So what does contiguous areas and reasonable compactness means? It means that each area is nearly practicable, needs to be composed and compact with clearly definable boundaries. Each one of the school board district areas needs to be distinct without other parts of other districts combined within it. And a lot of that means that what we don't want to have is you don't travel from, let's say, District 1, you go through another district, let's say 3, to get back to District 1. And that's where this means you don't travel between another district to get to another. And compactness refers to the overall shape of an area. It doesn't mean size. So you can have various size of the district shapes, but they need to be compact as well. We also take into consideration our communities of interest, and these are going to be groups with significant shared interests. They need to be kept together. And we also preserve the core of those existing school member voting districts for those core constituencies. And what that means is that we're not out to redraw all of the boundaries in each of those areas. We're just going to be shifting some population due to the growth in the school district. So currently, the state of New Mexico does not have any legal requirements for school board district boundaries to match up with any school attendance boundaries, or for school board members to only represent those schools within their voting district area. While they are elected by people that live in those zones, and they do, still represent some of those interests, the primary purpose for school board members is to represent the interest of the entire district as well. Oftentimes parents have children that, attend Los Lunas schools that may or may not live within their assigned school board representation area. So they might have students that attend a school such as Sundance, but may live in Peralta or Valencia elementary school zones. So they may live in a different district, but their students attend in an opposite one where their school board members are elected from. So let's take a look at some of the population changes between 2010 and 2020. Between the 10 years of the change have occurred, we've seen an increase of 1,689 people, which has resulted in a 3.5% increase in population. And how that shakes out across the district. In District 1, we've seen a 0.5% increase in population. Both Districts 2 and 3 have seen declines in populations, with District 4 losing 4.5%, while District 3 has lost 3.8%. However, Districts 4 and 5 have seen some significant gains of 18.9% in District 4, and District 5 seeing 5.5%. When we look at that current population and we start looking at how do we balance that between all 5 areas, we take the 5 school board member districts, we divide it by the population based on the 2020 census of 49,835. We come out to an ideal population for each school board member voting district of 9,967. So that's where our equal balance comes into play. And then we try to find that plus or minus 5% of the mean, which is allowed by law. So we end up with a target range of 9,469 to 10,465. So that's the range that we need to find in each zone within school board member district within the Los Lunas schools. So currently, this is where the district shakes out right now. The district is fairly large, comprising of 669 miles. We have various communities across the board. District 4, again, has seen the largest growth, as did District 5, with District 1 seeing very modest growth, and then both Districts 2 and 3 seeing some decline, meaning that population shifts and adjustments to the boundary are going to have to go from west to east. So again, looking at and checking how our districts with the current population shake out against our ideals and figuring out where we need to move. District 1 at 9476 against our ideal at 9967. We're below that at 4.9%. District 2 at 8924. We're down 10.5% below that ideal. District 3 at 9,218. We're below that at 7.5%. District 4 at 11,927. We are above that at 19.7%. And District 5 at 10,290. We are above that at 3.2%. So now we know where we have to start making our adjustments. Then we start looking at what some of the options are for the district. So taking a look at option 1, we do again As I mentioned, we are going to be moving and shifting populations from from west to east. So we'll have some shifts from District 4 to District 1 and 5, and then some shifting from District 1 to 2 and District 5 to 3. So looking at some enlarged areas, so we've got some changes from District 1 right up here, or from into District 1 from District 4. So this is going to be an area north of Main Street. It'll be the area east of Los Cerritos and Highline Street. And there is an area with a park right here on just south of Inspiration at Fiesta subdivision. And we're going to use that as our north portion of a boundary up here that will connect into the existing District 1 boundary. And all of this area right here will be now part of District 1. And then on the south side of Main Street, just north of Morris, we're going to go on the east side of Sickler Road and connect up all the way up to where it is at the existing District 5 boundary. And all of this area will now move from District 4 to District 5. And then we start looking at some additional changes. We're going to move from District 1 to District 2. And this area is going to be north of Main Street and also west of 47. And so we're going to start here at Riverside Drive, just on the east side of the river. And so we're going to take this area here up to the south side of Sunflower Lane, taking all of this area and the west side of 47, and all of this will now become part of District 2. And then the area from south of Main Street and the west side of State Highway 47 to the existing Acequia as it goes south, just south of El Cerro Loop here. This small sliver here will now become part of District 5. So it'll shift from, or District 3, I apologize. It'll shift from District 5 into District 3. So then we check where our population sits once we've made these changes. District 1 now increases to 9931. And when we compare that against the ideal, we're at 9967. And so we're only 0.4 below that ideal. And so we are also within our range of 9,469 to 10,465. So we're in good shape. District 2 now has 9,717. It is only 2.5% below our ideal. And again, we are in good shape. District 3 at 9,622. We're just below the ideal by 3.5%. District 4 now is at 10,355. We are slightly above at 3.9% of the ideal. And District 5 is at 10,210, and it is 2.4% above the ideal. All 5 districts fall plus or minus 5% of that mean, and we are in good shape with this option. So option 2, again, we're going to have this shift from west to east, and we'll have these areas from District 4 to 5. We've got areas from District 1 to 2, and then we have 2 areas from District 5 to District 3. So again, this area north of Main Street and east of Los Cerritos and Highline Street, this area is the exact same as in option 1, as is this area down here on south of Main Street. This area north of Morris and east of Sickler Road, this is also the same as in option 1. However, over here, when we look at the shift between District 1 to District 2, this is slightly different. Again, this does start north of Main Street and east of Riverside Road. It does continue north to Sunflower Lane, and then it shifts over to the east side of Guadalupe Drive and south of Chug Hole, and with the area now west of State Highway 47. So this whole entire area will now become part of District 2. And then this first area down here south of Main Street with this area between State Highway 47 and that Acequia will become part of District 3. It'll move from District 5. So this area will now shift. And then we have another area that will move from District 5 to District 3. And this area is from south of Del Oro Loop and east of La Entrada Road to Manzano Expressway. And this whole area right here will now also be part of District 3. Again, so we need to go through and double check our numbers and see where we're at. 95.99, we're below 3.7% of our ideal at 99.67. And then in option 2, we are, or District 2, 10,049. We're 0.8% over. District 3 at 10,202, we're above 2.4%. District 4 at 10,355, we're above at 3.9%. And District 5 at 9,630, we are slightly below at 3.4%. Again, all districts meet the plus or minus 5% of the mean. And then with option 3, we are looking at District 4 to 1 here and 4 to 5 here. This does change in this option. We do have an area from 1 to 2 and 5 to 3 and 5 to 3 down here. So again, looking at the changes here, this one area to the north of Main Street from District 4 to District 1 is the same as in option 1 and 2. This area, however, that changes from District 4 to District 5 is different. It does start down at the south, down here Miller Road. And it is also starting from east of I-25, and it will go up to, there's a subdivision break starting at the north sides of Las Villas and Rancho de Valencia subdivision, and it will go and continue over to Sickler Road and everything east of Sickler Road and connecting back up to the existing District 5 boundary. All of this area here will now become part of District 5. And then some changes here to District 2. There's a couple areas here. We have, again, starting north of Main Street, up Riverside Drive to Gabaldon, and then over to the east more of Algodones and around the Acequia to Sunflower and Guadalupe Drive into Chug Hole Lane. So this strip here, just west of State Highway 47, will now become part of District 2. And then there is also a small area south of Main Street, starting at State Highway 47 on the east side, south to Sun Valley Road, over to where Riverside is in this area here, that will also shift from District 5 into District 2. So these two areas here, north and south of Main Street, will now be part of District 2. And then there is the other area that will now begin at Sun Valley Road, El Cerro Loop south, towards El Cerro Loop to the south at this end, and from the Acequia to the west side of State Highway 47. This area is reduced and now will still become part of District 3. And then again, on the south side of District 3, there is this area again from La Entrada Road, south of Rio del Oro Loop to Manzano Expressway. This area will now become part of District 3. So when we double check our numbers and we look at District 1 at 9,744 against our ideal of 94.69, we are slightly below that by 2.2%. District 2 at 10,182 is above that by 2.2%. District 3 at 10,151 is above that at 1.8%. District 4 at 9,506 is above or is below that by 4.6%. District 5 at 10,252, we are above by 2.9%. Again, all 5 districts are within plus or minus 5% of the mean. We are within our range for this again to be a viable option. So again, when we look at them all across the board side by side, District 1, when we look at where that ideal population at 9967, where we're at sitting here, District 1 under option 1 is is slightly below at 0.4% under that option. In option 2, we're below at 3.7%, and in option 3, we're below at 2.2%. In District 2 for option 1, again, we're below that ideal population by 2.5%. In option 2, we're above it by 0.8%. And in option 3, we are above it by 2.2%. And for District 3, starting with option 1, against the ideal, we are below 3.5%. In option 2, we're above 2.4%. And in District 3, under option 3, we are above 1.8%. And in District 4, starting again at option 1, we are above 3.9%. In option 2, we're above 3.9%. And in option 3, we are below 4.6% of the ideal. And then in going back to District 5 under option 1, we are above 2.4%. In option 2, we're below 3.4%. And in District 5, we are above 2.9%. So we are within, again, that plus or minus of 5% of the mean, and we are within the ranges that are required. So just as a final summary, each option meets all the requirements based on the Federal Voting Rights Act, as well as the New Mexico Secretary of State handbook requirements. That we do provide equally balanced populations within plus or minus 5% of the mean in each of the voting options. We do preserve the core of those existing districts and protect the core constituencies. Each option is contiguous and compact. We don't promote a particular party or candidate or jurisdiction. And then the population diversity between each of the options only has a plus or minus 1% change or less across all racial categories in each of the school board districts, allowing them to remain similar to current conditions, even with that modest growth that the district has experienced over the past 10 years. So again, looking at where we are for next steps, this is meeting number 3 this morning. We do have meeting number 4 this afternoon and 2 additional ones next week. Public comments, and we'll look at questions here shortly if there's any, can also be submitted through the district website starting last week. And you can send those to solivas@llschools.net. Please reference the SBM maps so that we know what it's in reference to. The school board will be adopting a final option at the end of November. Is there any questions? Did you see any questions, Sydney?
I don't see any questions at this time.
Okay, so I think that's it for today's meeting.
I just want to remind everyone this presentation is on our website at llschools.net, and there's an interactive map as well.
Okay, perfect. Well, that concludes our meeting then, I guess, today.
Thank you, everyone.